So welcome to the last round of talks. I hope that you enjoyed them. And to this afternoon is going to be great, so I hope that everyone stay in track number 2. I'm Vanessa Martinez, and I'm going to be your MC. And today with me is Rashi. Rashi is going to tell us more about Oliver. Can you please tell us more about Oliver and yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rashmi Nagpal. I'm a machine learning engineer at Patchstack. And today, I have an incredible opportunity to introduce my fantastic boss standing there, who is not just my boss, but a very genuine mentor as well at Patchstack. And he makes sure we have all the resources we need for our work, which includes multiple rounds of having espresso martinis.
You are so lucky, guys. Great.
Cheers to espresso martinis.
Amazing.
And apparently, he is fascinated by eels.
Yes, what's the story?
And he was also the part of the Estonian government, actually army. Many moons ago, he was leading their cybersecurity team. And he was being awarded a Medal of Honor by the government of Estonia. Isn't it super dope?
It is. Can you please give him a round of applause, please? Excited. Okay, amazing journey. Can you please tell us more about the talk, what he's going to talk about today?
Sure. So today he will talk about CRA, which actually mandates organization to make the vulnerability management lifecycle in their workflow. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand together and give a big round of applause to my boss and of course to the mentor of so many cybersecurity professionals out there, Oliver Sill, CEO of Patchstack.
Woohoo! Have a good time.
Hello. I was told not to cross this line because then my face will be there, but apparently it already is. So, hello everyone. My name is Oliver. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Patchstack. I've basically spent my entire life on working on security, hacking and defending, and both sides of the story. I built a communities in Estonia, hackerspace, co-working space, so very much kind of like focused on the community building, and that's what we've done in Patchstack as well. We have a community of over 2,000 ethical hackers that help us in securing WordPress. That's what we've done for the past, I think 8 years already. So it's been a journey. So how many of you even know what Cyber Resilience Act is? Yes, except for the Patchstack. Oh no, 5 people. So actually, this is the hardest slides I've ever had to do because this is not the topic for 20 minutes. But I think it's very, very important that everyone knows about this, and I think people need to read more about this as well. So you're going to get some homework after this talk. So I know some people are going to hate me immediately that I say that this is like GDPR, but it is kind of like, for me at least, to be able to like make you understand kind of like the magnitude of it. So it's not just like a small, tiny new law that is being passed. But it was passed already, so it was passed in October 2024, and it essentially regulates the security of products with digital elements. And what is the product with digital elements? It is a website. It is, a plugin. It is WordPress core. It is essentially everything that you can offer to a customer or anyone or make available in the European Union to users, which is, in a sense, a digital product. The main obligations of that law start from 2027, with an exception of early obligations that already start in 2026. And some of the things are, for example, vulnerability handling. So if you're, for example, a plugin developer, how do you handle security vulnerabilities if someone finds that? All of this is going to be part of that law. So who needs to comply? I really like that if you read the Cyber Resilience Act, one of the first things written there is like open source software is excluded. But it's not. Free and open source software is not excluded, and there's a separate term for that called stewardship, which we can talk about a little bit later as well. So If you have any users in the European Union, so it doesn't matter if your company is from the States, if it's from anywhere else in the world, if you are making your product available to the European market, you need to comply with the Cyber Resilience Act. If your product has any commercial element, let's say, for example, a pro version, but that is also the wording commercial in the Cyber Resilience Act is interesting as well, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to make money, but it also means that if you have a commercial intent with your product, let's say, even if you have like you're pulling data from your free product and then making, using it for ads or anything like that, it also basically means that your product is commercial. And yeah, like, is it maintained by a commercial or like a legal entity in general? Or if it's like completely open source, but it's intended for commercial activities, which WordPress is. So this is an inception, because this is a slide inside of a slide. I hope you like it. Essentially, this is like just a way how to kind of like understand whether you're going to basically be affected by the Cyber Resilience Act. So if you're like completely like offering like or like contributing into free and open source software that is completely just, like GitHub, a project of your own, then you're most likely not going to be in scope. But as soon as you're providing, any kind of commercial activity to it, or, in a very broad sense, as I mentioned, or if you're directly monetizing the project, you are going to need to comply. And why I wanted to show that is because it's important, because Cyber Resilience Act is essentially putting everyone into two categories, which is manufacturers and open source stewards. And there is going to be a slight difference in terms of how they need to comply. So let's talk about who the manufacturer is in the eyes of the European Union. So there's like basically like a big this text from the legislations actually, and the PDE means product with the digital elements, and like so essentially anyone who is manufacturing or marketing such kind of products are essentially considered manufacturers. Let's take an example. So a company or an individual building WordPress plugin that has a paid version or a free version that collects data which is commercially beneficial to the owner. So essentially, even if you have a free version of a plugin, but it is commercially beneficial to you, then you need to comply with the Cyber Resilience Act. Then there is an open source steward. So for example, a legal person that is, whose purpose is to essentially maintain and support an open source software. So it has to be like a legal entity on top of that. And the example is WordPress. Even though we have some questions about that, because we don't necessarily know who is the actual open source steward in the WordPress ecosystem. Is it really the WordPress Foundation at this point or not? So this is a question I think we need to kind of like solve as well. So what is going to, the roadmap to Cyber Resilience Act kind of like look like? This is very, very simplified, but essentially there is going to be phase one, which is the deadline is for 2026. So I'm telling you, we have like 1 year, and we are all very, very late already. So the first things, you need to manage vulnerabilities. So vulnerability handling is part of the first phase. So managing vulnerabilities. So does your website have a place to report vulnerabilities to? Does your plugin have a place where to report vulnerabilities to in a very clear manner? If there is a vulnerability, do you have processes set up so you can notify the European government that there is a vulnerability? So the European government actually created their own vulnerability database, which is essentially managed by ENISA. So you need to like report the vulnerabilities in hours to them if it's, for example, exploitable vulnerabilities. You need to also inform your customers. Do you actually even have a communication channel to your users, which is also a problem in the open source ecosystem. If you just build like a plugin, do you have actual, contact to them? And SBOMs, yes, I don't know whoever was in CloudFest from here. There was a project that was called SBOMinator. Yes, big applause to this team. So they were already starting to work on basically bringing SBOMs into the WordPress ecosystem. So this is something that is going to be important as well. And then the the second phase, and this is something that I cannot put into a slide because that involves so much more, is to essentially have a risk-based approach in general, security by design of your entire product, transparency, and you need to have the CE mark that you've maybe seen on physical products that are produced for European markets. We now have to have CE marks for our websites, for our plugins, for the WordPress core. Everything needs to have a CE mark, and depending on how there's essentially different types based on how the importance of the software or like the criticality of that software, and you might actually need to have a third-party regulator to give you the CE mark. Don't care about it, no compliance. Well, this is the scary slide. This is like, we're gonna take all of your money slide. That's how European Union makes money, by the way. So if you don't comply, European Union is gonna make a lot of money. That is essentially the story. And it's very similar to how GDPR works. Like it's either 2.5% of your total global turnover, or it's up to like 15 million euro, whatever is higher, basically. So this is the fines that we are talking about. There is a website, I don't know, Nestor, do you remember what the website name was for the GDPR tracker, fine tracker, I think. Yeah, so there was essentially there's a website that is tracking all of the fines that are being done for the GDPR. So we're going to see a similar website, I think, tracking all of the fines that are going to be in the CRA. Something that I want to mention: GDPR is so much easier to like make a straight face and say I'm compliant with it, and actually not being, and so nobody can come and like point a finger at you and like, oh no, you're actually not compliant, you're going to get fined. CRA is going to be very much harder to make a straight face and say that, hey, I'm providing this product to the European market and like I'm compliant, and then actually you're not, because you can immediately tell if you're not compliant or if you are compliant. So I think it's going to be much, much easier for the European Union to start actually penalizing, for the non-compliance of Cyber Resilience Act compared to the GDPR. It's just something to keep in mind. So let's give some homework for the ecosystem. So plugin, product companies, plugin developers. Actually, this applies to agencies as well. But ultimately, like what I focused here is on like plugin developers who are basically building digital product, which is the plugin. You really need to get vulnerability management and reporting in place. This is also very painful for us because we, as a company, as PatchStack, we deal with a lot of vulnerability reporting in the ecosystem. And it's so hard in many, many cases to report vulnerabilities to the plugins, which have a completely no contact information available. This is just eating up our time, the security researchers' time. This is eating up the plugin review team's time, who is doing amazing work and like just hacking through all of that. We need to have basically like a standardized process of like just being able to report vulnerabilities where they need to go. You need to notify your users of vulnerabilities. So this is all of the stuff that you basically need to have set already in 1 year. Like you have to have that basically set to be compliant. And of course, notify the information to ENISA, and prepare your SBOMs. You don't need to share the SBOMs with the public, but you need to have the SBOMs available if someone basically is coming to ask for that. So you need to have, you need to prepare them and you need to have them. And right now, like in the WordPress ecosystem, we don't even have like products to generate the SBOMs, and basically in 1 year everyone needs to have them. So we really need to speed those things up. And I think overall, just read about CRA. It is super important that everyone reads into this, because there's so much information still that is, even for me, like on these slides, like this is like the tip of the iceberg. And for the WordPress and for the foundation, like there are some things that in the current setup is actually not possible for the plugins to even be compliant. For example, Cyber Resilience Act is basically asking all software vendors to release security updates completely separately from the functional updates. Right now, it's not possible to tell whether an update is actually, a security update or not in the WordPress ecosystem. And everyone is kind of like baking them together into a single release, and then everything is, kind of in one thing. This is going to be non-compliance. You need to have separate security updates, and they need to be marked as a separate security update. So WordPress.org, for example, definitely needs to have some sort of like a flagging where, to basically separate regular updates from the security updates. And yeah, we need to probably ask plugins to already start adding their, vulnerability reporting information. So WordPress, .org on the plugins kind of like a repository. It also needs to have a place where, potentially someone like a security researcher or someone could basically report the vulnerability to. That helps plugin developers to become compliant faster. And something that is that I mentioned is that Cyber Resilience Act is putting we're basically into two categories: manufacturers and open source stewards. So for the foundation as well, the question now is, who is going to be that steward? We need to figure that out because we don't have much time. So something that, let's say, WordPress is going to be an open source. So if the foundation is going to be the open source steward for WordPress.org, then Cyber Resilience Act is going to have guidelines for governance. And the governance guidelines are actually coming from that law. So this is something that WordPress is not currently compliant with, and this needs to be solved as well. So this is homework for the entire ecosystem to read into this, but there is work for every one of us. And that's it.
Amazing. Amazing, Oliver. You have a question.
Yes.
Do we have time, right? Yeah,
We should have time.
We should have
I tried to speed run through it so we could have questions.
Perfect. Yeah, you are the winner.
You probably guessed I was going to ask a question.
Yes.
Or it's not a question, but I mean, I want to.
I wish
thank-
it would
yeah.
be here actually, but
Yeah, sorry. I can come up. No, it's, I mean, really, thank you for this great presentation. I've been going around to a lot of people saying, oh, CRA is a lot worse than you think. You're the first one who's actually shown how important this is for all of the CMSs. Right now speaking, I represent Typo 3, Drupal, and Joomla, and the effort that we are doing through the Open Website Alliance to find a CMS-wide standard for handling the CRA stuff. And we really want WordPress to be in on this as well. So
WordPress needs to be
yeah,
on this.
really.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, you mentioned the GDPR versus CRA. I think one important difference is that GDPR was, it's the customer that pushes you to be GDPR compliant. When it comes to the CRA, the customer isn't going to care that much, but it's going to be a cost that you have to take and that the customer isn't going to understand that you have. So that's an important difference that we have to deal with in, I guess, marketing and communication. It's also, you're also commercial if you do support services, even if you
Accept
have
donations as well? I also accept donations?
No, donations is a special thing. Unless you make a profit, there's standards being worked out on how that can be handled, but donations seem like something that you can actually still receive to some degree anyway. Yes, S-bombs, keep them tight to your chest because we're seeing reports now about the potential of S-bomb trolls that will sue you for money just because they find issues. Yeah. It's a software bill of materials, so all of your dependencies and their security status.
Yeah, it's like, I liked how this was explained at CloudFest by the Spominator team. I love that name. It's basically like if you have a cake and you have like ingredients of what that cake is made of. So that's the document.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your talk, little talk. We have, do you want to make a question? Perfect. Here, we have two questions. Can she please go first? Because she's closer. There, perfect.
Hi, thank you for your talk.
Perfect.
So we're an agency in France, and we're specialized also at the intersection, basically between web development and compliance, and a variety of topics related to electronic invoicing and VAT regulation, digital accessibility, GDPR, etc. So basically, based on what you said, like my understanding is that WordPress itself should have an improved review process for their WordPress directory, and maybe certain plugins that are compliant with the new regulations should have like some sort of certification label, whatever.
It's a CE mark, basically, like you have on even like physical products.
Yes, but today I think the WordPress review process is like very scattered, and that's why one of the reasons I think there's just such a variety of vendors that interpret different legislation differently, and goes in line with what you said. So, in your opinion, how would you improve the process, the review process, and is there any actions that can be done on the part of the community to facilitate this process and to push forward these changes in the review process for the directory? Thank you.
I think the directory needs to take into account that like the Cyber Resilience Act is going to be something that is going to affect everyone in the in the community. So it should be kind of in their benefit to essentially make it as easy as possible for everyone in the community to become compliant. And that is important to include that processes into the repository as well. Like as I mentioned, like the repository should already show the information where to report vulnerabilities to, maybe even automate parts of that security process, maybe also help generating SBOMs for the plugins that are present on the repository and so forth. Like all these things, like the more the distribution can basically solve these problems for the community, the easier it is going to get for agencies even like you down there. Because if you are basically selling a website to your customer, this is a digital product. And that means that all of the plugins that you use in that website, including WordPress core, need to have a CE mark. You cannot even use plugins then anymore to sell it forward, because otherwise your own product is going to be non-compliant. So this is going to like a tree basically go into those layers. So it's going to, yeah. And again, we have 1 year to do that. So.
Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry. Just one. It was the same question. Okay, we have just one more question. So you're the winner. Yes. It's because we are pretty short on time, so just a little one, please.
The website you were asking for was enforcementtracker.com.
Oh, enforcementtracker.com. You can see how much people pay for
Perfect.
GDPR fines.
Well, one more question, because that was very short. In case someone wants to ask something, no one?
If not,
Okay,
I'm going to talk
perfect.
about eels.
Yeah. Okay, but they are going to be in their booth if someone needs to talk
Yes, we
with
have a
Oliver. So you are more than welcome to stop by. And he's going to make the last question. Perfect.
You said as a plugin developer, I have to notify my users. But if the plugin is installed over WordPress.org, the plugin repository, I don't know who my users are.
And that's your problem.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't make the law, but it is going to be a problem. That's what I said. Like you need to have a way how to notify the users of vulnerabilities.
Do you think WordPress.org, the plugin repository, could deliver such a feature?
It could make your life definitely easier. And I think, yes, WordPress, the repositories need to take more action in that sense, yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So now please give him a round of big applauses. Thank you so much, Oliver.